The heart of Blue Ridge, the morning sun filtered through dusty windows of the old diner, casting a warm glow on the familiar wooden tables. Hank Wilder sat alone in a corner booth, a chipped mug of black coffee cradled in his weathered hands. Lines etched deep on his face spoke of years filled with labor, loss, and haunting regrets. Outside, life bustled as townspeople moved about, laughter and conversation spilling into the air, a reminder of a world unchanged by his personal solitude. Hank stared out the window, thoughts swirling like the steam rising from his mug. He couldn't shake the tidal wave of memories crashing down on him, echoes of laughter shared with his father, moments of joy now lost to time. The past felt like a distant land, one he had abandoned long ago. The chime of the bell above the door broke the silence. A young man, bright-eyed and brimming with energy, stepped inside. George Matthews, just 25, entered the diner like a breath of fresh air. He spotted Hank and made his way over, enthusiasm practically radiating off him. "Mr. Wilder?" George's voice carried a mix of excitement and respect. "I'm George Matthews. Can I join you?" Hank glanced at the eager newcomer and nodded absent-mindedly, feeling a shift in the air as George slid into the seat across from him. "My dad always spoke highly of you," George continued, a spark igniting in his voice. "He talked about your rodeo days, the stories you shared. You were a legend around here." At the mention of his father, a storm of emotions surged within Hank. The flood of memories brought an ache to his heart that he'd thought buried. "Legends don't exist as you think," he replied, his voice gravelly, tinged with defensiveness. "What you hear are just stories." "But those stories matter," George insisted, undeterred. "They shape who we are. Don't you want to share them?" Hank shifted uncomfortably, the weight of old wounds pressing down on him. "Not all stories are worth telling, kid," he retorted, feeling anger bubble beneath the surface. Yet George's sincerity broke through Hank's hardened exterior, challenging his reluctance. "I want to understand." George leaned in, eyes shining with determination. "My dad loved you like a brother. He told me how you faced challenges, how you lived." The walls Hank built around his heart trembled at the earnestness of George's words. "Life is complicated," he said softly, avoiding George's gaze. "Complicated doesn't mean it's not worth sharing," George countered, his passion unwavering. Hank felt a flicker of warmth within the icy shell he'd crafted. Just for a moment, he found himself yearning to share the memories, the camaraderie of the past, the joy in the pain. But he shook his head, the fear of vulnerability creeping in. With a sudden rush of emotion, Hank rose from his seat. "I need to go," he muttered, leaving some bills on the table. He sensed George's gaze follow him, filled with confusion and concern. As he stepped out into the sunlight, wind brushed against his face, carrying with it the ghosts of his past. Hank walked away from the diner, the echoes of laughter inside stark against the silence that enveloped him. Each step felt heavy, a reminder of the memories that refused to stay buried. Unknowingly, Hank was embarking on a journey that would lead him back to himself, the flickering spark of connection igniting the path ahead. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the fields surrounding Blue Ridge, Hank found himself sitting on the porch of his modest home. The familiarity of the creaking wooden boards beneath him was comforting, yet the heavy burden of the day's exchange with George weighed heavily on his heart. He gazed out across the sprawling landscape, where the darkening sky met the silhouette of rolling hills, and memories danced in the twilight. In his mind, the images flickered like an old film reel, the laughter shared with his father, the thrill of the rodeo, the sense of belonging that vanished with the snap of a tragic moment. Hank remembered being a boy, wearing his father's wide-brimmed hat, filled with dreams of becoming the best cowboy, just like his old man. "I've got the spirit of a wild stallion, Hank," his father would say, pride shining in his eyes. "You'll carry our name with honor." The vivid recollections pulled him back to simpler times, to roping lessons in the dusty corral and the smell of fresh manure mixed with hay. Hank could almost hear the thunderous applause from the crowds at the rodeo, the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he took home the buckle he'd coveted. Those days felt like a different lifetime, a lifetime tainted when the accident snatched everything away. As the wind rustled through the grass, it carried whispers of regret. Hank could picture his father on that fateful day, the way his presence lit up the room, how he lived each moment as if it were a precious gift. The image twisted sharply into one of pain as the memory of loss washed over him, cold and suffocating. The day his father died felt like the day Hank himself had buried his dreams, allowing guilt to take root deep within him. Just then, the creak of the porch steps broke Hank from his reverie. Rose, an old friend and longtime neighbor, approached with the warmth of familiarity. "Evening, Hank," she called gently, settling into the chair beside him. "You look like you've been wrestling with the ghosts again." Hank met her gaze, the knowing glint in her eyes prompting a sigh. "Just thinking," he replied, watching the shadows lengthen with the setting sun, "about the past. Funny how it has a way of sneaking back in, isn't it?" Rose's voice was soothing, drawing Hank into a conversation he long avoided. "You know, George came to see me today." "Did he?" Hank was taken aback. He hadn't expected George to seek out anyone else after their awkward encounter. "Yes," Rose continued, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. "He's eager to learn about your father, Hank. He sees you as a keeper of stories, part of a legacy he values. He spoke so highly of you." "Legacy," Hank scoffed, the word leaving a bitter taste in his mouth. "What do I have to offer him? A graveyard of regrets?" Rose placed a gentle hand on his arm, grounding him. "Your father would want you to share the good with the bad. He always believed in the lessons learned through our trials. You have wisdom to give, Hank." But Hank's defenses ran deep. "I've spent years running away from those lessons, Rose. What good would they do? Nothing I say can bring him back. If you could reach just one person, doesn't that matter?" she challenged softly. "You have a chance to connect again, to heal. Maybe even for George, but mainly for yourself. He looks up to you, Hank, as a link to his father's history." Hank listened, the fervor in Rose's voice igniting something deep inside him, yet fear threatened to overshadow it. He remembered how he had pushed away friends and family in the aftermath of his father's death, choosing isolation over connection. Another wave of guilt washed over him, a denial of the legacy he buried. "Don't you ever miss it?" Rose pressed gently. "The joy of sharing your stories, the camaraderie." A shuttered gaze slipped from Hank's eyes. "All that feels so far away," he admitted, his voice raw. "I failed my father the moment I stopped living like him." "Do you really think he wanted you to live in shadows?" She stood up, stretching her limbs as if to invite the energy of the earth into her words. "He would have wanted you to thrive, to cherish life even in its imperfections. It's never too late to reclaim who you were." As darkness enveloped the land, Hank was left pondering her words long after Rose had gone. He picked up his old guitar resting against the wall, the strings gathering dust from years of neglect. Hesitating, he strummed a weary chord, the sound resonating in the air like a call to the past. The notes hung around him, unfamiliar, yet oddly comforting, filling the silence with an echo of memories. As he continued to pick at the strings, a tune began to emerge, a song of sorrow, longing, and unspoken hope. He closed his eyes, allowing the rhythm to transport him back to days spent under the stars, surrounded by laughter and love. The fragile chords became a pathway to a distant time, igniting a flicker of warmth within him. It was a slow awakening, yet undeniable. Perhaps it wasn't too late to share his stories, not just of loss, but of love, adventure, and the bonds that tied them together. Filled with newfound determination, Hank knew there was a chance for redemption, even if it came through sharing moments that had once brought him pain. And maybe, just maybe, George was a beacon guiding him back to the light. As he played into the night, the stars above twinkled like the ghosts of his past, a constellating reminder that he still had stories worth telling, a bridge to healing, a connection waiting to flourish again. The following morning, Hank awoke to a crispness in the air that felt refreshing, invigorating. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes wandering in its bright beams. The warmth beckoned him to emerge from the shadows he had inhabited for so long. With purpose swelling within him, he decided to venture into town. Driving through the familiar landscape leading to Blue Ridge, the bends in the road revealed memories pinned to each curve and rise. Tall oaks whispered secrets to one another, their leaves shimmering in the sunlight. Hank inhaled deeply, letting the sense of earth and fresh dew spark renewed life in his spirit. At the diner, he parked and stepped inside. The bell over the door chimed, and he was greeted by the lively atmosphere, filled with the laughter and chatter of locals starting their day. George was already seated at a booth, a notebook open before him, scribbling as if the world around him faded in importance. "Good morning, Mr. Wilder," George exclaimed, his enthusiasm palpable. "I was hoping you'd come." Hank hesitated as he approached, the warmth of George's invitation almost disarming. "Morning," he replied, surprising himself. Coffee would be nice." George waved to the waitress, ordered their drinks, then turned back to Hank with eager eyes. "I want to talk about your dad. His stories mean a lot to me. You have to share them." Uneasy but intrigued, Hank seated himself, the warmth from the coffee mug coursing through him like forgotten comfort. "You really care about those tales?" he questioned, uncertainty lacing his voice. "Absolutely." George leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "It's how I can connect to my father. I want to understand who he was, and you hold those memories." Hank's defenses softened. He thought about the stories he'd buried, the laughter and lessons echoed in his heart. "I suppose I could share a few," he finally agreed, feeling a spark of something he hadn't felt in years. As the sun brightened the diner, Hank recounted the vibrant memories of his youth, the thrill of rodeo, the camaraderie among riders, and the sweet summer nights spent strumming his guitar by a campfire. With each story, he noticed George's eyes widening, reflecting his interest and admiration. "There was this one time I took home a buckle," Hank started, a smile breaking on his face. "Felt invincible until I was thrown from my horse, landing hard. My father taught me humility that day. Winning can fade just as fast as losing. You've got to stay humble." "And did he share those feelings with you?" George asked, leaning in. "Not really. More in the way he lived. He faced challenges head-on, showing me the value in resilience," Hank conveyed, realizing that perhaps his father's spirit lived on within him. As they shared stories, Hank felt the warmth of connection grow. Remembering the joy of sharing, he discovered a wellspring of pride swell within him. "I can't believe how much depth you have," George declared, his infectious enthusiasm spilling over. "You should join us for the open mic night at the community center. Your stories deserve to be heard." Hank felt a shiver of anticipation. Open mic night, performing again after years, but the thought brought a lump to his throat. "I haven't played in ages," he admitted, his voice wavering. George's eyes filled with encouragement. "It's not just performance, it's sharing who you are. The world needs to hear your voice." Tentatively, Hank nodded, something inside stirring. "All right, I'll give it a shot," he said, feeling the weight of a new beginning. The morning faded into afternoon, the conversation flowing easily between new friends. Hank realized the leap into the unknown might lead him back to himself, and as they left the diner, he felt optimistic for the first time in years. That evening, under a dome of stars, Hank stood in front of a small audience at the community center, the excitement and anxiety swirling within him. He had chosen a few stories to share, along with his guitar. Each note struck felt like a call to his past, and he welcomed the impending connection with open arms. With the first words spoken, he felt alive again, reminded that the journey ahead was just beginning, driven by the need to share and heal. The community center buzzed with energy, the scent of popcorn and coffee swirling through the air as Hank took the stage. Clusters of locals sat together, their chatter quieting as they turned their eyes toward him. The spotlight warmed his skin, and he gripped the neck of his guitar, feeling the familiar contours beneath his fingers. The notes of his past echoed in his mind, a comforting whisper urging him forward. Taking a deep breath, Hank scanned the crowd, locking onto George's encouraging smile seated near the front. He looked different than the fresh-faced young man who approached him at the diner. There was a spark of quiet assurance in his gaze, something resembling hope. The moment felt electric, a pivot point in Hank's life where his past and present collided. He spoke softly at first, sharing stories of his father, the man who taught him resilience, laughter, and the bittersweet nature of life. "My dad never sugarcoated things," he began, his voice steadying. "He believed in facing the world as it came, and sometimes that meant learning the hard way." Laughter rippled through the audience as Hank recounted moments of triumph and failure alike, weaving him deeper into their hearts with each word. Memories of rodeos, backyard barbecues, and late-night sing-alongs poured out, bringing life to the images of a happy family gathered under a vast Texas sky. As he played, the music began to take over in a way that felt familiar yet exhilarating. Hank strummed chords that flowed seamlessly through the room, while the rhythm of the guitar matched the beating of his heart. He started with a song that echoed in his spirit, the one his father used to sing. The melody rose and fell, carrying with it the essence of what once was. The audience leaned in, captivated by his vulnerability and authenticity. Hank's eyes sparkled as he caught glimpses of nodding heads and soft smiles. He could see empathy reflected back at him, and slowly the walls he built around his heart began to crumble. The performance sparked something in him that he hadn't felt in years. With each note, he was not just strumming strings, but weaving together the fabric of his past and the bright threads of hope that filled the room. He felt unburdened, liberated by the magic of storytelling through music. And then he began to share the more painful stories, the lessons that bore the weight of loss. "There's a moment I wish I could take back," he confessed, vulnerability flooding his voice. "When my father died, I lost not just him, but a part of myself. I thought I couldn't face the world without his guidance." The audience was silent, a shared breath between them. Hank spoke of regret, of pushing people away, and the struggle to reclaim joy in the midst of sorrow. Each word poured out like healing rain, washing away the dust of neglect that had settled around him. He finished the song with a breath, a note that lingered in the air, full of emotion and redemption. The applause that erupted felt like a warm embrace. Hank looked up and met George's gaze, seeing pride reflected in his eyes. It rekindled a fire deep within him, the desire to openly share, to connect, and to inspire. After the performance, Hank stepped off stage, heart racing and spirit soaring. He was greeted by familiar faces, voices filled with encouragement and congratulations. "You did great, Hank," a neighbor exclaimed, tears shimmering in her eyes. Others approached, cloaking him in warmth, commending him for his courage. George practically beamed as he found Hank in the midst of the crowd. "You were incredible. I knew you had it in you," he proclaimed, clapping Hank on the shoulder. Hank felt a swell of gratitude that flooded his heart, a realization that this moment wasn't just about performing. It was the beginning of a rebirth, a newfound sense of purpose that dawned like the morning sun over the Texas plains. As the night progressed and people mingled, Hank found a moment of solace out on the porch, the chill of the night air brushing past him. He inhaled deeply, savoring the laughter inside. The stars twinkled above, seemingly more vibrant than before, a constellation of reminders that he was not alone. From behind, Rose stepped outside with a warm smile. "You've reclaimed your voice tonight," she said, leaning against the railing. "What you shared isn't just for you. It could resonate with so many." "Thanks, Rose," Hank replied, his heart swelling. "I didn't realize how much I needed this, how much I needed to let go of the past and embrace what lies ahead. It's like I always say," she stated gently. "True healing starts with sharing our stories. You might have opened a door for yourself and, in turn, for others." Hank grasped her words, allowing them to seep into his soul. As they stood together, a comfortable silence enveloped them, tinted with hope and reflection. He no longer felt unmoved or adrift. He was healing, and he was free. The following weeks flowed with a gentle rhythm, each day ushering in new insight. Hank began to visit George more often, sharing coffee and stories. Their friendship blossomed into a mentorship, George eager to learn, and Hank rediscovering the piece of him that had long been silent. Together, they started planning more community events, weaving tales into music under the vast Texas sky. Each day felt brighter, full of possibility and life, the warmth of connection illuminating paths he had once thought bleak. Hank embraced his father's legacy, not only reclaiming his voice but also understanding that the spirit of sharing carried weight. As he strummed chords and sang from the depths of his heart, he felt an ancestral bond that reminded him he wasn't just telling stories. He was continuing a tradition, handing down lessons learned through love and resilience. And in doing so, he forged new connections, a legacy built not on isolation, but on the joy of shared moments, laughter, and healing. The rebirth Hank experienced was not only about him, but about uplifting those around him, one story at a time. As the weeks rolled on, Hank's journey towards self-discovery transformed his life in ways he never anticipated. The community gatherings he helped orchestrate infused their small town with laughter and joy, revitalizing not just his spirit, but also the people around him. One sun-drenched Saturday afternoon, Hank stood on stage at the annual Blue Ridge Fair, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement. The scent of popcorn wafted through the air as families gathered around, children darting between games and rides, their laughter filling the spaces of the fairgrounds. This was a world far removed from the shadows that once claimed him, yet Hank's heart raced as he prepared to share his music with the crowd. "Good afternoon, everyone," he called, his voice reaching out over the audience. "Today I want to share some songs that reflect on the power of resilience, the light that breaks through the darkness." With a deep breath, Hank began to strum his guitar. Each chord resonated with memories, revealing layers of hope shaped by his father's teachings and his own journey. As he played, he felt the energy of the crowd lifting him. They followed along, leaning in closer to feel the magic of the moment. And yet, as the excitement of the performance soared, doubt snuck back into Hank's heart as the sun set and the night enveloped him in solitude. What if his success was fleeting? What if he couldn't replicate the joy he found on stage? Each night fell heavier on his shoulders, whispering insecurities that threatened to unravel the confidence he had fought to build. The following morning, Hank sought solace at their favored diner, meeting George for coffee. The familiar clink of cups and the aroma of brewing coffee felt comforting, but the anxiety gnawed at him. "I can't shake this feeling," Hank admitted, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. "After the fair, I started to wonder if I'm capable of delivering it again. What if yesterday was a fluke?" George regarded him with a thoughtful gaze. "Hank, you've built something significant. This isn't just a run-of-the-mill performance. It's your voice being heard. You're sharing your journey, your truth. That's what resonates. But what if they get tired of my story?" Hank's voice fell to a whisper, laced with fear. "What if my past isn't enough?" "It's not just about the past," George replied, leaning forward, his sincerity shining through. "It's about how you continue to grow and share that growth. You'll always have a new story to tell. Just take one step at a time. Trust the journey." Hank took a deep, grounding breath. George's unwavering support combined with his own burgeoning resilience sparked a flicker of hope in the depths of his heart. As the days dwindled toward the upcoming Blue Ridge Fair concert, Hank dove headlong into preparations. Late nights spent rehearsing transformed into moments of introspection, and while he crafted his set list with passion, apprehension festered within. Compelled to confront these inner battles, Hank returned to his father's grave the day before the concert, seeking guidance. The landscape around him held a quiet stillness, and as he knelt before the headstone, he felt incredibly vulnerable. "I'm trying, Dad," he whispered, laying his hand upon the cool granite. "I'm trying to live up to who you were, but I'm scared. I fear I won't measure up. What if I let you down?" The wind rustled through the trees, an aching reminder of familiar memories tied to a father's love. In that stillness, Hank sensed a stirring, an embrace woven through nostalgia, hope, and the spirit of resilience. "Tomorrow I'll find a way to celebrate both you and myself," he vowed, standing a little taller. In the days leading up to the concert, Hank felt the excitement intertwined with fear. Arriving at the fairgrounds on the day of the concert, anticipation crackled in the air, mingling with the sounds of laughter and joy swirling around him. "Are you ready?" George approached him, his confident smile radiating warmth. Hank turned, still feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing against his chest. "Can I really do this? What if it doesn't work?" "You're not alone in this, Hank," George reminded him, his voice firm and reassuring. "You've got friends out there, people who care. Share your truth and inspire them." Listening to George's supportive words, Hank stepped onto the stage, greeted by waves of applause. In that moment, the world shifted. He was enveloped by the presence of his community, not just as an audience, but as fellow travelers sharing in the beauty of life. As he began to perform, the initial tremors of anxiety faded, replaced by an empowering buzz that surged through his veins. He poured his heart into every song, knitting love, loss, and the lessons of his father into the fabric of the performance. Hank spoke openly, weaving stories of resilience and rediscovery, allowing strangers to witness the very essence of who he was. The audience connected deeply, leaning forward to catch every word, every note. Hank had stepped beyond self-doubt to embrace his truth, and in doing so, he offered healing, both for himself and those listening. With the finale approaching, Hank's heart soared, resonating with gratitude for the moment. Applause erupted like thunder, swirling around him and lifting him up. It was a chorus of acceptance, a reminder that he was seen, heard, and cherished. As he stepped off the stage, a wave of relief washed over him. Overwhelmed by love and support, he realized the journey was not without its challenges, but it was a journey worth taking. The apprehension that once held him in bondage had transformed into a profound sense of belonging. In the days that followed, Hank discovered that while fears might linger, They no longer governed his life. He carried with him the powerful lesson learned through storytelling. Each moment shared brightened the path ahead, continuously shaping the man he became. Through the eyes of his audience and renewed connections, Hank was no longer merely surviving the shadows of his past. He had embraced a life filled with possibilities, their laughter shining light into places once hidden in darkness. This was more than just finding his voice. It was weaving a tapestry of hope, resilience, and community, ensuring that the lessons of love and connection lived on in all the stories yet to be told. Months slipped by since the unforgettable concert at the Blue Ridge Fair, and Hank found himself immersed in a sea of musical creation. The guitar, once a silent reminder of the past, transformed into his closest ally. Melodies flowed from him like water, embodying his hopes, dreams, and the spirit of the stories he carried within. Each strum became a stepping stone toward connection, weaving his past into the tapestry of his present. One rainy afternoon, as droplets danced on the porch railing, Hank received a call that sent his heart racing. It was Rose, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Hank, you know about the annual musicians competition in Austin, right? They're holding it this year, and I think you should absolutely enter." His mind whirled at the thought. Austin, the epicenter of Texas music, the place where dreams danced in the air like fireflies. Enter? But Rose, what if I embarrass myself? What if I don't measure up? Stop right there. This is about more than winning. It's about sharing your journey. You've come so far, Hank. You owe it to yourself to take this leap, she urged, her sincerity shining bright. Doubt loomed larger than life, gnawing at him. What if everyone expects me to succeed? What if I let them down? Hey, it's not about everyone else. Think of this as another opportunity to share your story. We'll all be cheering for you. Her words wrapped around him. Taking a deep breath, Hank glanced at the guitar propped against the railing. A wave of courage washed over him. He could feel the pull of Austin. He decided to enter the competition, the buzz of excitement mingling with pangs of apprehension. In the weeks leading up to the event, he practiced tirelessly, pouring every ounce of emotion into his music. From the moment he awoke until the stars blanketed the sky, he strummed softly on his porch, crafting melodies that carried the essence of his past and dreams for the future. There was solace in each note, healing in each chord. Arriving in Austin, Hank was struck by the vibrant energy coursing through the city. The venue, a historic theater filled with musicians, buzzed like a beehive. Backstage, he mingled with other artists, exchanging stories that felt like old friends reunited. There was an electric connection, a shared understanding of the journey they all navigated, a tapestry of dreams woven from threads of determination. As his performance time approached, Hank's excitement collided with anxiety. Retreating to a quiet spot backstage, he gripped his guitar, grounding himself. He closed his eyes, visualizing the faces in the audience, each one a stranger, with their own story yearning to be heard. Finally, stepping onto the stage, the spotlight engulfed him in a radiant glow. The audience welcomed him with eager anticipation, and the overwhelming energy coursed through his veins. Hank took a deep breath, shaking off the weight of self-doubt. He poured everything into his performance, singing songs that bridged the gap between past pain and newfound hope. With each note, the audience leaned in closer, connecting deeply with his stories of love, loss, and redemption. As he reached the final song, an exhilarating rush ignited within him. The applause that followed felt like a tidal wave, lifting him beyond the confines of self-imposed limitations. He had shared something sacred, and in that connection, he found not only acceptance but also healing. Stepping off the stage, Hank felt a blend of relief and exhilaration wash over him. As the night unfolded, he mingled with fellow performers, and in the crowd he found her. Leela, a vibrant singer-songwriter with a voice that danced like light. "Your performance was incredible," she exclaimed, her smile infectious. "You have a gift worth sharing." Their connection blossomed amid laughter and the shared language of music. Hours flew by as they exchanged songs, dreaming together about the stories they wanted to tell through their art. Each note shared became another thread in their evolving friendship, bound by a mutual desire to inspire and uplift one another. As the competition progressed, the anticipation mounted. The final night arrived, a whirlwind of excitement as contestants awaited the results. Lila was among the finalists, and Hank felt a swell of pride for her. Her passion shone brightly, and her voice filled the rooms they shared. When Lila's name was called as one of the winners, She erupted in joy, and Hank cheered for her triumph. The moment was a celebration of their journey, a testament to the power of connection and community forged through music. And then came the grand moment when the host announced the winner of the top prize. Hank's heart raced as the name echoed through the theater. When he heard his own name, disbelief swelled within him. The applause broke like a wave over him, an affirmation that he was becoming part of something larger. Standing before the microphone, he took a deep breath, holding the trophy in his hands, not just as a symbol of achievement, but as a representation of every story shared and every step taken. Thank you all for this incredible honor. I dedicate this to everyone who believed in me, who shared their stories and lifted me up. This journey is not just mine, it belongs to all of us. The applause enveloped him, joy mingling with gratitude, and in that moment, Hank understood the true victory of the competition. It wasn't merely about winning, it was the experience that championed connection and shared humanity. As he left the stage, the warmth of belonging washed over him. The journey he had embarked on had sculpted him into a storyteller, someone who lived for the connections sparked through music. With Lila and newfound friends by his side, he realized he was ready for whatever lay ahead, a tapestry of songs, stories, and shared paths, waiting to be woven into something beautiful and lasting. A week had passed since the exhilarating competition in Austin, and Hank found himself back in his small town, where the familiar rhythm of life returned like a comforting embrace. The trophy sat proudly on his mantle, gleaming in the morning light, a reminder of the journey he had taken. Each time he saw it, warm memories flooded back, the laughter, the songs, the friends he had connected with along the way. But Hank knew this return was not just about showcasing a prize, it was a moment for reflection and a new beginning. The small town buzzed with life, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose growing within him. Inspired, he envisioned hosting a community concert, an event that would unite local musicians and celebrate the very connections that had revived his spirit. One crisp Saturday morning, the sun peaked above the horizon, casting a golden hue over the landscape. With his guitar in hand, Hank settled onto his porch. The familiar sounds of chirping birds filled the air as he began to strum a few chords. The music flowed through him, guiding his thoughts. Excited by the idea, he grabbed his phone and called Rose. "What do you think about organizing a concert in the park? A chance to showcase local talent and bring everyone together." Her enthusiasm was palpable. "That's a fantastic idea, Hank. We could set it up next month. Let's get started." The two spent hours brainstorming and planning. Flyers were distributed and word spread quickly through the community. Musicians began to show interest, eager to share their stories in front of familiar faces. As the date drew closer, Hank could hardly contain his excitement. The anticipation was electric. On the day of the concert, the park was alive with color and sound. Vendors set up their stalls and laughter rang out, blending with the sweet notes of music being practiced nearby. Hank's heart swelled as he looked around at the familiar faces of friends and neighbors who had come to participate. As he took his place on the makeshift stage, the warm sunlight bathed him in a golden glow. Butterflies danced in his stomach, but this time it wasn't from fear, it was a thrill of purpose. Hank's eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the smiles and excitement, the energy of the community palpable. With a deep breath, he began to play. The first notes carried his journey, tales of pain, love, and healing woven into melodies. The audience sang along, their voices fusing with his, creating a tapestry of sound that resonated through and beyond the bounds of the park. Between songs, he invited other local musicians to join him on stage, creating a collaborative spirit of warmth and joy. Each performer brought their unique sound, their songs becoming threads in the communal fabric, stories shared and experiences intertwined. The crowd swayed, their spirits lifted as the music connected hearts. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the park, Hank felt immense gratitude swell within him. This concert was more than a performance. It was a celebration of community, an acknowledgement that they were all in this journey together. As the concert came to a close, the applause that erupted filled the air, a chorus of appreciation for the music and connections forged. Hank looked into the faces of the crowd, joy radiating from every corner. This was the moment he had envisioned, a culmination of his journey from isolation to connection. Lila, who had traveled to surprise him, beamed with pride. "You did it, Hank. This is incredible. You've built something special here." The warmth of her words filled him with purpose. Together, they shared the moment, a promise to continue fostering community through the power of music. As night fell, Hank lingered in the park, watching the stars twinkle above. He reflected on the path he had taken to get here, realizing that his life was intertwined with the lives of those surrounding him. This journey, enriched by the stories and voices of others, had just begun. With a heart full of gratitude and connection, Hank embraced the future, knowing that the symphony of his life was just starting to unfold, a tapestry of songs, stories, and shared dreams waiting to be written, filled with hope and the promise of what was to come.